Okay, let's do it. Welcome, everybody. I'm Vito Labella, the PTO president of the Krista McAuliffe Intermediate School PTO. Thank you for your patience and your toggling back and forth between links. It's like live television, you never know what's going to happen. So this meeting will actually, by the time we get set, is only going to last about 25-30 minutes. And I will put a link to a new meeting in the chat, and we will finish off whatever we have to finish off with the new link. So I apologize again for the inconvenience. It's nothing that we did. I mean, there's a setting that you switch to allow or not allow authenticated users. I had it off, but I toggled it off, but the Zoom didn't toggle it off. So I don't really know why that happened. That may be just something just out of our control. But again, welcome. Happy holidays, everybody. This would have been our holiday potluck dinner. I wanted to wear my holiday red shirt for the occasion. We have mostly an open meeting, a lot of housekeeping stuff, but we're going to go forward. We have some really good news. We have some interesting stuff, and we'll all get through this together. So first, I want to welcome Mr. Berman, Ms. Ortiz, Ms. Zhao, and Ms. Lingori-Link, our co-PTO people, and they're all co-hosting, so they're all going to be helping me out. And I'm going to share my screen and put the agenda up. So we'll leave that up for a little bit. That's the agenda here. So the president's report, I don't have a ton of stuff. We're going to probably do this back and forth between Mr. Berman, Ms. Berman, Ms. Zhao, and Ms. Ortiz between the minutes and everything else. So we'll just jump in as things come up. And as far as what's going on with the PTO, well, we have no news on everything that's really important to our parents. We're working on it. The PTO itself, we're doing really well. We have we had a very good month with Cheddar Up. I mean, considering that the pandemic is ruining everything that's normal, right? So last year we received like $50,000 of donations. We received 7,400 so far this year. The year is not over. And so we'll probably send out another end of the year request for contributions. But again, we understand that things are difficult for everybody, and we just appreciate what anybody else can do. Kim is not able to join us tonight, the VP of Fundraising. She wanted me to share with you that we are working on some kind of a gala, probably a virtual gala. We are also working on a Lunar New Year project for Brooklyn Tech, and we're going to piggyback off of that to see what we can use for our school, if we can work it here. Maybe I'll invite all of our parents to the YouTube of the Lunar New Year celebration. If we don't, so we're doing a great celebration for Brooklyn Tech for Lunar New Year, and anything that we learn in that, we're going to try to bring over here to see what we could do for our school, right? We're going to be Zooming for certain participants, and we're also going to be share screening pre-recorded presentations, pre-recorded events like the dance, and pre-recorded entertainment. And we're going to incorporate that through the screen share on Zoom, and the whole thing is going to be broadcast to YouTube and out across the world, right? So we're all our very own television stations, and so we're going to do that there, and whatever I can bring here, we're going to try to do that as well. So with that, let me give you to Mary Ann. Mary Ann, can you go over the minutes? Do you share your screen and go over the minutes? I'll unshare mine, and then we can see if we could look at the minutes and approve last month's minutes, and then go on from there. And in the meantime, while you're doing that, I'm going to set up another meeting.
Okay. So last month's meeting was pretty short, and I'm actually still yeah, just quick updates. Vito started the meeting, but he had to go to the CEC 20 meeting and to Matilda Frontis's forum. on the SHSAT. So basically, there were no new updates. Okay, so yeah, not a lot going on. There was really no new information about the SHSAT, middle school admissions, high school admissions, GNT testing. No real information. I'd mentioned that Assemblyman Colton had started a petition for District 20 and 21 families about the SHSAT. Yeah, not a lot of changes as far as the treasurer's report. There was only really one expense, and again, donations, everyone, please, if you can donate. Vito sent out the letters about connecting with Cheddar Up to sending your donations. So the big thing really was that there were parent-teacher conferences coming up. And I think when we had that last meeting, we weren't sure when we were going to close, but closing was kind of imminent. And then we ended up closing, 2 days later? Right. And that's pretty much it. So there was a day of gratitude that had been scheduled for Thursday the 19th, and the buildings ended up being closed. The students had met with, there was a group of students that had met with Mark Cuban, and they got to ask him a lot of questions. And I don't think there was a lot much after that. So that's about as far as I got with the minutes, and I'm going to finish them up a little bit later.
Okay.
I'm going to
We
turn
still
it back
got a
to
lot
you,
of people
Vito.
coming in. We're up to 70 people. Look at this. I think it was the text, Mr. Berman. I think your text, maybe we should text out
I think so
the
too.
meeting more often.
The text, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that it worked. And
It's
definitely working.
I appreciate the PTO supporting us for the texting feature of Pupil Path.
Well, look at that. There we go. So let's do the, so can we get a motion to approve the minutes? Somebody second? I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Second?
I'll second.
Anyone opposed?
Motion.
No? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Wonderful. Okay, the minutes are approved. Texting is definitely working, yes. Okay, wonderful. 73 people, we have a record, I think. So, okay, so now I'm going to share my screen again, and I'll put up the treasurer's report. I emailed it to you, everybody. It should have, you should have received it. Meeting students' needs. Dr. Jane Bogac is the Dean of Fordham's Graduate School of Education. It's a rigorous process. You have to really grapple with meaning and make sense of a topic. And so there's just no reason. Okay, so did everybody have my screen?
Yes, we do.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the feedback. So we had $59,466 in change in the account in the beginning of November, and we received $6,306 in membership. We received $374 in corporate and $910 in box tops. Those two things are actually from the spring of last year. So if you do scroll down, I'll jump ahead, but you'll see a return check for $187 there, because even though I deposited the check from a corporate match, it had expired and they took that money back. So we didn't actually get that total amount. We got half. So, but it's better than nothing. It was sitting in the box since last spring, and we did get it in finally. So next month we're going to do some proposed budget changes that Michelle suggested. We kind of telegraphed it a little bit here. So we'll probably ask on the budget in January for the amended budget. We'll probably ask to have a line for COVID-19 expenses. So the thermometers that we purchased for the school when we were going to go blended, we still are going blended eventually, I think. But to get the school up and ready, that came to a little over $1,000, and we'll probably have a separate line on that in January if everybody agrees. The other stuff is pretty boilerplate. We have a Dropbox account, we have water supply for the office, and the $750 is for our tax accounting fee, which we're done. And I also attached the bank statement to really be transparent, so you guys actually see the actual bank account, so that you know that I'm not, cooking the books. Of course, I guess I could probably forge this, but that really would take way too much work and skill, and I certainly wouldn't do that. But I'd like to draw your attention to the treasurer's report yourself, and you might notice that it's a little bit different format. And what I did is I kind of converted the old treasurer's report, which was kind of in-house and homemade a little bit, and every PTO does it differently. And I tried to, excuse me, I tried to make it very similar to the actual DOE mandated reports that we submit twice a year. We submit a interim report that that expire, I think, for December 31st, and then we submit a final report for June 30th, and it looks just like this, complete with the signatures and submitting it to the principal. And I believe that by keeping this format consistent month to month, it makes it easier for anybody who follows us to follow along and to know exactly what they have to do for their reporting requirements. And it also makes it easier, I believe, for the tax filing as well. It makes it real easy for us to see what's going on and what we have to send. Okay, so that is the treasurer's report. I do want to share some stuff that we did at the CEC meeting. So there were 2 resolutions, both passed by 9-2 votes. And one had to do with asking the city and the DOE to immediately schedule the SHSAT. That's something that they are dragging their feet on. I know our 8th grade parents are desperate for information, as well as our current 5th graders in District 20 who are desperate for figuring out, what requirements are going to get their kid into which middle school or which middle school program. So the 2 asks that we had, and a lot of it was based upon, discussions with parents, and this is not a perfect solution by any means, but the resolution was to ask for the DOE, and if the DOE doesn't do it, the district, to take 3rd grade state math and ELA scores, 50%, and then 50% grades up until March of 2020. We'll do away with attendance, we'll do away with lateness, and use those 2 metrics when populating schools like Krista McAuliffe and superintendent's programs like Diker and McKinley and other superintendent's programs around the district. So it's no secret that the city may be using the pandemic as a way to do away with these screens, which they don't agree with politically. The Deputy Chancellor, Adrienne Austin, in a rare moment of candor, she admitted that this is a political process, not an educational one. So we're waiting, all of us, to see what exactly happens. The second resolution, and I'd like to just take a few minutes and share with you, because I wear so many hats, but I always try to be honest with this population, Krista McAuliffe, because you guys were my first constituents. And, the broader your base of people, the harder things are, because you have to kind of balance everybody's wishes and everybody's concerns. And it does become difficult, right? So I'm going to stop sharing this. I apologize for not getting rid of that earlier. And you guys just jump in if I should be doing something that I'm not. But the second resolution was about COVID-19 testing, not about whether or not to test, because we all agree that testing is very, very important, but it was about how the DOE and by extension the schools administer the test. And there are parents, mostly I think of elementary school children, who are desperately anxious about how the test is being administered, specifically about unknown people touching their child, putting a Q-tip in their nose, or whatever it is. Now, I'm not here to say that I agree or disagree, okay? What I am saying, and this is the line that I try to walk with everybody, is it's parents that are very concerned, and we go out of our way. The DOE goes out of our way to try to accommodate people, and the ask that these parents had was just to be able to watch this process and be in the vicinity of their child if they do get tested, or to provide for a private test, right? So you get a notification that your child was tested. They have to go to their pediatrician or a testing site that day. They have to get a test. If they bring the results of that test to the school, or it gets uploaded. I am all for allowing parents. I know that if the city were to come down and say, Mr. Berman, Ms. Siddiqui, figure out how we're going to do this. I know they're so great. They would figure it out probably in 15 minutes. Is just really the will to do it, right? So we did pass that resolution, and those are the reasons why I supported it and worked hard to try to get it passed. Again, feel free to communicate with me in any way you like about your thoughts. I love to talk to people and figure out what people are thinking, what their point of view is, and then we try to put it all in our brains and come out with something that makes as many people happy as we can, and understanding that we all know that not going to make everybody happy, but we're trying our best. So anyway, with that, does anybody have any questions? Is there anything in the chat for me? Anything? Anyone to raise their hand, or I'll put gallery view on.
It's Marianne. I want to ask what happened as far, do we have a new superintendent for District 20?
Okay, so that is pending. From what I understand, there were meet and greets with certain parent leaders and certain constituents. The executive superintendent, Ms. Friedman, is going to make her recommendations up the chain of command to the deputy chancellors, and however far that goes. And I actually believe that Mr. Carranza himself would have to sign off on that. And I believe that they're looking sometime in January for a decision to be made. Anybody else? The checks from
There's
last
something in
year's
the chat.
Yep, it's about the checks. I received my refund back from the Washington trip. Maybe Mr. Berman will touch on that when he gets to his thing. And that's actually a good segue.
Great to be able to share with you tonight, and I want to thank you for coming tonight. Hopefully our text message was helpful in getting you all here, and so I am grateful for that and for your dedication to our school. I just want to update you on a couple of things. I know there was some information that came out today about the middle school process, and that middle school, the application for middle schools is not out yet, but parents can begin to, I guess, use the system, although it's not populated with your choices yet. As Mr. LaBella mentioned, there was some talk at the CEC about middle school admissions, but at the school level, we have heard no information at all about incoming students or any kind of projections for incoming students for next year. So we really don't know anything about what that's going to be like for next year. I would say if you're interested and you're concerned, you should be vocal about it. However you feel, I've always said that. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. That's the expression. And however you feel about admissions, whether you think they should be screens or not screens, or if you agree with the process that Mr. LaBella mentioned earlier or have another idea, you should say something about it, because it's the people who say the most, whether you agree with them or not, but the people who sort of talk the loudest tend to get what they want. It just sort of seems to be how things go. So beyond that, the latest Department of Education push, as you may know, is for students to come to school 5 days a week, or as many of them as possible. We're looking to even just open as middle schools, never mind 5 days a week, any days a week. I really don't have any solid information about when middle schools are going to open, although I was at a principals conference today, and the possible projection is sometime later in January. Towards the end of January. That's really the best information that I have about when those schools will open. But I did want to let you know that since the very beginning, we have had 5-day week instruction for our ACES students. Those are our students with intellectual disabilities. And even before this push by the mayor to do whatever he's doing now, we've been working to bring back our self-contained students, and then perhaps even expanding to our ICT students 5 days a week. Now, of course, at this point, we're not talking about bringing back additional students. If you're remote for the rest of the year. If you're blended, you can always go remote, but we won't. The city's not allowing schools to bring back more students, but we are talking about is trying to expand the live instruction for as many students as possible, which is certainly a worthy and noble goal, and something that we've tried to do really since and have done successfully to the greatest extent that we can from the beginning of school. I understand that there are still funds outstanding from that our school owes some families for trips that they paid for. I can tell you that our school aides are still working on writing those checks. Everything has to be done manually in this case. And since our school has been closed for so long, it's been a little difficult getting checks and things back and forth, but they are in the process. Some of them have already gone out. Others are going out this week. We certainly are trying to get everything to families by the holidays. And we certainly do know how important it is to be able to have the money that you're owed by the holidays, but we're doing the best we can to get all of those things back. There aren't many trips that are left. I think there's really just one more. It might be the Washington trip from Arts and Humanities. I think that their school aides are still working on. I know they met one of our assistant principals yesterday. They went into the school and they picked up more checks. So those things are happening. The other thing that's going out are the diplomas from our graduates last year. They're getting the official Krista McAuliffe diplomas and diploma cases. And those are being mailed directly to those students from last year. At our leadership team, we also talked a little bit about graduation for this year and what that might look like and what that could look like. And really what we would love to be able to do is have some kind of in-person ceremony for our students, even if we have to do it numerous times in a small scale, a class at a time, 2-3 classes at a time, whatever we can possibly do to properly recognize and honor our graduates. We're going to work very hard to do that. I know Mrs. McGar, our 8th grade AP, is going to be working on with a committee on graduation in general and different activities, including the ceremony. So I wanted to update you on that. The final thing that I wanted to talk about today is really a very, very serious issue, and I left it towards the end because it's something that really does require us to really put our heads together. One of the things that we're seeing this year, more so than ever, are some students who are really very, very stressed out. Stressed out to the point where some of them have actually been hospitalized. And it's a real concern that it's sort of beyond the environment of the school, and just sort of the world that we're currently living in has become sort of a difficult place for all of us to learn to manage. And what we're noticing is that for many of our children, they're really struggling to try and get through a lot of things throughout the school day. One of the things, and I just want to share just a couple of pieces of data with you, because it really is kind of scary when you think about it. You know, each year we have suicidal ideations, students who, you know, might have thoughts about suicide. This year we've actually had 2 attempts, and it's really quite scary. We've never experienced that number before, and it is a tremendous red flag. Now, we've been working on the social emotional components of student education really since before March and since before the pandemic, but it's really been a big part of what we do at the school. The other piece of data I want to share with you is about report card data. And, you know, report cards are coming out. They should be available tomorrow, today. And what we're seeing is a lot of students who have some fairly low grades, and a lot of students who are having a very difficult time keeping up, keeping track. It's a very challenging world that some students are really doing a fantastic job and they're knocking it out of the park. Other students are really struggling. And part of what we're seeing, and I do kind of understand this, and maybe this is a way I can frame it for you, but you know, typically students at Christa McCullough are really challenged during the day, and they get a significant amount of homework to do at home. And typically, work during the day at school, when, you know, we're in a non-pandemic situation, generally doesn't involve computers. Sometimes it does, certainly when when the children have a technology class. But a lot of times it's dealing and interacting with teachers and students and working in groups and talking and writing and drawing and doing a lot of different things that don't involve a computer. Now, of course, it's very, very different. And whereas in the past, children would spend a great part of the day at school away from a computer, when they did their homework at night, it was often using a computer. But I think it was a different enough activity that there was some separation between the kind of work that they're doing. And what we're seeing now is some students, quite a few, who are really having a hard time keeping up, but not just keeping up, but they're really getting turned off to being in front of a screen for so long, because they're in front of the screen all day. And then they're doing homework and they're doing activities and they're doing other kinds of things at home, whether they're related to our school or otherwise. Because I know that many of our children have other kinds of school that they're working on. They're working on SHSAT prep. They go to Chinese school and all of these things, which are great activities. But it's adding up to a lot of screen time, a lot of screen time. And for some kids, you know, if they've got 4 or 5 assignments a night, and for some students, they may be working 3 hours, 4 hours a night. Some students may do an hour and a half a night. But for some students, and I have to tell you, these are students, we're talking 7th and 8th graders who generally do very well, who are really struggling, and they're struggling to keep up. And it's almost like they get behind in a couple of assignments, and it's like a wave that keeps moving and it keeps moving, and they're trying to swim to catch up to the wave, but they're just never going to catch it. And what winds up happening at that point is people start to give up. And they start to stop doing work altogether. And they start to not participate in class. And we're seeing a lot of things that are evidenced in a lot of really stressed out kids. And perhaps you're seeing it too. You know, maybe your kids aren't talking as much. Maybe they're not talking as much with their friends or in class. But we've got to figure out a way to get them, I believe, away from that screen time a bit after school. And to one of the things that we're working on at school with each department is looking very, very carefully at the work that we're assigning students to do after school hours, whether they're projects or whether they're math assignments or math problems to do. And we're really looking very, very carefully at the value of those assignments. Frankly, there's a lot of research that shows that there's no value at all to homework. I'm not necessarily in that camp, but I am in the camp of doing the best thing for our kids. And I do understand that we have very high standards at Christa McCullough. And this is not about lowering standards by any stretch of the imagination. It's not about lowering standards. But it's a matter of, are we doing the best thing for our kids? And are we taking care of them the best that we can? And are we giving them the best education that we can? Are we giving them work to do at home just because it's work to do at home that isn't work that we can really verify and make sure is being done in the classroom? No, I understand, sure. Well, what about algebra? Don't kids need to practice for algebra? Yeah, I bet they do. I do. But, you know, when we turn around and say, someone might say, you know, someone had this conversation with me and they said, well, what about the state tests? What about them? We don't even know if we're going to have them. And if we do have them, what do you think they're actually going to mean? Are they going to mean anything at all? And even if they do, at what expense? You know? So these are all some real important questions. And I'd love to get some feedback from parents about what you're seeing. If you think, you know, I'm totally off base with what we're hearing and some of the feedback that we're getting from kids and from families, if, you know, maybe we're really off base. I don't know, I'm not sure. The data's out there. But I really, I'm looking for feedback from our families, from our PTO, from our SLT, from our teachers. On Friday, our teachers have been having department meetings all week, really talking about the same kind of issue. And on Friday, we're probably going to get the whole staff together on that day and have some work for the children to do. Of course, the mayor said no more snow days, but, you know, we've been working really hard and so have your kids. So we may have a different kind of a snow day or something like that on Friday, but where we can really get together, perhaps some of our kids can catch up on some of the work that they might be behind on. And you'd be surprised how many kids are behind on their work. There really are a large number of students. And that's okay. And you know, we understand that, and our teachers are trying to be very, very understanding and flexible. I want to be clear though that I do understand also that there may be students who take advantage of a situation, and who are, playing games that, well, literally and perhaps figuratively, when they should be working, right? My camera doesn't work, my microphone doesn't work, things like that. But I think in the end, the most important thing is, are we taking really good care, the best care of our kids, so that they are healthy, both physically and mentally, for the challenges that confront them? And doing a lot of work on a computer after school, after spending a lot of time during the day on the computer, may not be part of that. And that's what I want to sort of put out there for everyone. And again, I'm looking forward to feedback, and I'm looking forward to, making the educational experience as great as it can be for all of our kids. So thank you for listening to me go on about that. It's something that's real important to us, and we're going to help the kids one way or another. So, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
If anyone's got any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Berman. I put some things in the chat. I want to see Amy. Amy really, Amy agrees that there's a lot of screen time, and she's been concerned about it, and she thanks you for addressing it. I want anybody else who wants to say something, please. We would love to recognize you if you want to say it, on the camera and the screen, or you want to put it in the chat.
I will say that part of this began with really some feedback that we got about students not having a lunch break, and we really looked at that and said, we've asked the teachers to give them some time during that instructional lunch, and we set up the instructional lunch that way because the city told us to set it up that way. But you know what? Everybody deserves a lunch break, a real lunch break where, it's not like, oh, well, let's talk about this class while you're, shoving a sandwich down your face in the first 15 minutes of class so that we can get to do some more math problems or whatever. So what we asked those teachers when the children have lunch, to please give them a lunch period and give them a lunch break. So you may be seeing that, maybe you're not seeing that, but I hope that you are, and hope you ask your child, do you get a lunch break during the school day? And I hope they're going to tell you yes, because if they're not, please let me know. They're entitled to a lunch break, just like everybody. If you had to work all day without a lunch break, you wouldn't be that productive either. But
thank you, Sarah. We have a Sarah.
Yes. Hi. Good evening, Mr. Berman.
Sarah, can you please give us your last name? I'm just concerned about.
AWA. I have 2 kids in the 8th grade.
Oh, great. Thank you, Sarah. Welcome. Thank you for coming.
So good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Berman. I appreciate you discussing that.
you're welcome.
As you stated, I guess every school is struggling with remote learning from all standpoints, from the highest. So I appreciate what you just said. A lot of parents may not be aware that even high achieving students are struggling with remote learning. So I really appreciate that. And I'm very happy with the teachers. They're great. My kids have a balance. My only thing is that school isn't fun anymore for them because my kids were in the arts academy and they missed that art component. They neither have band nor Miss Badia for art or anything. So this is just a suggestion. If they could do like an art class or band or something after school that's relaxing for them, even though it's virtual, I get it. But my kids were in the arts program. They love it. They are now in business and it's completely different kids. So, the dynamic is a mix. The teachers are great. They understand that. They only have 3 kids from the Arts Academy. So very creative kids, a different mix. So that was my recommendation. If they could do a virtual arts class with Miss Badia or whatever, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. And thanks for the feedback. And I'll just explain a little bit about that. We actually don't have academies anymore. We weren't able to set the school up that way in order to be able to provide the consistency and continuity of instruction that we're able to do now. So we've got the students broken down into grade levels, and they're operating in grade levels rather than academies. So, and I know it's unfortunate that there are classes that children expected to have and really love. We're working on a better balance of those classes, and there may be some things that we can do as we're trying to bring back those students 5 days a week, as I mentioned earlier, that would allow some more flexibility in the programming. But I do understand that the elective classes are really a problem, and unfortunately they've been compounded by what I just told you about lunch. Most of those classes are elective classes. They're just scheduled that way. But so it's a catch-22. But I do appreciate it, and we will look into that.
Thank you, Mr. Berman. Thank you so much, Sarah. So let me share with you, I'm also on the safety committee at Brooklyn Tech, the SLT at Brooklyn Tech. And I share these things just so that we all know that we're not alone, right? Brooklyn Tech has 300 kids. That's 5% of our enrollment that are virtually MIA, right? They have 6, they don't call them failures, like 6 of their classes they're failing, 6 or more. It's NX now, I believe, Mr. Berman.
Correct.
So we have kids from Brooklyn Tech that are just MIA that they haven't been able to get a hold of. And what I learned is there are no more admissions officers. So you might have a kid that's missing, they can't get a hold of them. And in a normal world, you'd have somebody knock on that kid's door to try to find them, but they don't have that now. So you know, every kid is a treasure. And to think that even if it's only a handful of kids, a handful is too many, right? One is too many to have these kids out there and not being engaged. But it's not just Krista by any means. I think it's an important thing to speak about. And I also want to, we did have something in here about homework. And this is the homework thing is also in Stuyvesant and Brooklyn Tech as well. And a lot of our kids may end up going to those schools, fingers crossed. So it is relevant for us as well. And this whole thing about having to check pupil path for homework assignments after school ends. There's a question about that in the chat. And they're trying to do away with that at Brooklyn Tech, and I don't know what the policy is here, but Mr. Berman, if you could speak on that.
Yeah, you mean just in terms of homework in general? Or?
Well, I mean, so from what I understand, like a kid might miss an assignment because he didn't check after that class was over to see if the teacher posted anything. And please correct me if I'm wrong. Is that what you're asking, ma'am? Christina?
Well, yeah, I think there are issues with how students, you see, there are issues with how students find the homework, because there are many, it seems like it should be straightforward. Oh, there's your homework. But teachers are using many different tools, and this requires some complex processing on the student's part, because they have a number of different classes and a number of different places to check to see where their work is. Whether it's in Google Classroom, maybe it's in Google Meet, maybe it's on the class page, maybe it's in Pupil Path. So each teacher has their particular way of doing things, and the children need to manage and figure that out. Now, of course, we have homerooms, we have a lot of assistance for kids. These kinds of things require a high level of executive processing, executive thought, planning. Children with disabilities, ICT students, self-contained students, and even many general education students have a very difficult time organizing and planning and processing all of these different activities over many different subjects. So that's part of the problem. And again, I think we can alleviate a lot of that by strongly considering what we're asking the kids to do after school in the first place.
Thank you. There's a question about NIA and doing SAT prep. At this point, I don't know, aren't we doing something at this point? Or is that ended?
If we can just back up for
Okay.
just a second, because I see a couple things here. A plan to discuss with students coping with stress. Yeah, we do that throughout the curriculum. We have special periods that we do that with. We have our counselors that go into classes. Our dean, Mr. File, works with the assistant principals, and we work with small groups of students. Perhaps some of your children may have talked to you about some of the small groups that they've had, for example, with the 8th grade or with Ms. Siddiqui, and now starting with the 7th grade. I'll tell you that Mrs. Gasser has been doing a fantastic job leading up the 7th grade. She has taken over the student piece of the 7th grade and is working on planning all kinds of activities that the 7th graders weren't really engaged with. But now I know there's, I believe it's a holiday movie scavenger hunt going on now. So if you're a 7th grade parent, ask your children about that. And those are some of the things that are going on. Again, to make school fun again. Somebody mentioned that before, that school has not been fun for the kids. I completely agree with you that school has lost a lot of the fun factor. And it's a lot of it is, it's not fun staring at a computer screen. It's fun when you're with other people and doing different kinds of things and going on trips and participating in after school programs. That's the other piece. The NIA after school program is going on. We will make sure, and Mr. Labella will keep me honest on this, to send out more information about our NIA program. There are arts programs. There's a theater program. We have a show coming up soon, a virtual show. So there are activities for students to do after school. And of course, they are virtual indeed. Let's see. There was something else. The art and music classes after school, yes. So those are going on, and so you should definitely avail yourself to those if you can. Yeah, I do understand that you know, a deadline for homework and about standards and being responsible. Yes, and there has to be a balance. Right now, I see us out of balance a bit, and we need to figure out a way to get back into that balance. SHSAT classes,
No, that was a
NIA
mistake, Mr. Berman. That was a misunderstanding. She really
Okay,
meant
great.
more art classes, and you addressed that.
Yes. Yes, and by the way, I will tell you that our teachers are currently engaged in professional development that's being delivered internally by one of our staff members, Mr. Kaplan. He's actually our theater teacher, and he's done an amazing job. He spent some time with the Department of Education after school, quite a few hours. I believe it's about 25 hours participating in a program that was called Trauma-Informed Instruction, which really shines a light on students who have experienced various forms of trauma, whether it's losing a loved one from COVID, going through strife at home with families who may have lost their job or income, and going through difficult times, maybe even having to move or losing an apartment, becoming homeless, all different kinds of things. And just working with our staff to sort of be a little more alert and cognizant to some of the signs that perhaps we can pick up on, and particular strategies to use in the classroom to address some of those things. So the third session is actually going on this Thursday, and that has actually been tremendously successful. Oh, I'm so glad, Mrs. Williams. That's wonderful. That's terrific. And I know they miss each other, and we miss them, and I miss the interaction. We're going to get past this soon, though. We are. Learn something possible.
Mr. Berman, this is Marianne Ortiz.
Yes.
I just wanted to say that my kids, listen, I have one in elementary school, one in middle school, one in high school. And it's my elementary school kid who's the most stressed out because he's in front of that computer all day. But what all of them have said is they actually, they felt a lot better when I bought them the books that they were reading and they could read it in paper instead of looking at the screen and reading an ebook. And maybe that's something that can help some other parents if they want to, if they can afford to buy the books, just getting a paper copy for them to read at their leisure instead of staring at a screen to read an ebook.
And I'm almost embarrassed to say that we just ordered some ebooks for our students that are actually the classics that they read, The Crucible of Mice and Men, and so forth. But they are much more interactive than just reading like a PDF file. So I'm hoping that that's going to make the experience of reading some of these things. So for example, there are tools where they can annotate as they're reading along with the text, whether they're using an iPad or a computer. And so I agree with you, Mrs. Ortiz, that there is nothing like holding a paper book in our hands. And we certainly should encourage children to do it. But at the same time, I think, we have to embrace some of the technology too. So I think both of those, but I'm really glad. That's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful suggestion. And perhaps, Mr. LaBella, maybe we could work to maybe get some more books in the hands of kids, whether it's, maybe getting some paperbacks and getting them out. Certainly we can do that with our blended students.
Yeah.
That's super easy to do.
We are in a bad place, Mr. Berman. We have 30
Oh, no.
seconds left. I apologize.
that's
Should I
good.
try
All
to
right.
do a new meeting? Should I try to do a new meeting? I apologize, ladies and gentlemen.
Sorry. I should have paid more attention.
No, me too. I apologize. Just give me a quick yes or no. Is there anything else that's really pressing? Do you think we should have a new meeting? If not, I just need a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Second, please. Anybody?
Second.
To adjourn, I second.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.